everyone, and welcome to the final session of the Urban Breakfast webinar series with CDIA and ADB's Youth for Asia. So I'm Ben Engelbach, and I'll moderate this session today. Before we get started, most of you know what CDIA and ADB Youth for Asia are, but we'll do a quick recap for anyone who is new. CDIA, the Cities Development Initiative for Asia, is a trust fund managed by the Asian Development Bank, and they help secondary cities in Asia and the Pacific prepare bankable infrastructure investment projects to increase their livability and sustainability. And Youth for Asia is also an initiative of the ADB that enables youth and governments to work together for a prosperous, inclusive, resilient, and sustainable Asia and the Pacific. Say that 5 times fast. Today's dialogue is called City Futures, and it focuses on how we can inspire youth to get involved in infrastructure and city development projects. So one quick thing before we move on, as usual, we have a 15-minute Q&A session at the end of the webinar where our guests will answer questions from the attendees. So if you have any questions, make sure you just hang on until the end, especially if it's something that wasn't covered during the webinar. Your questions, you can put them in the Q&A box, which is at the bottom of the screen under our heads here. So put your questions in there. Don't put them in the chat. Just put them in the Q&A box so we can gather them all together and we can answer them later. And one more thing, if anyone you know wanted to attend this webinar but missed the registration, they can actually watch the live stream on YouTube right now. And the link to the live stream is in the chat box. So just copy that and send it out to anyone who wants to watch the show. So back to Urban Futures. So let's set the stage here a little bit. While there are many headlines about Asia's aging population, Asia is actually the most youthful region in the world. There's over 1.1 billion people in the region under the age of 30. And youth are the future policymakers and city inhabitants, and they represent a large workforce that can contribute to city economies throughout the region. However, their engagement in urban planning and development is still often overlooked by city project stakeholders. So to help us learn more about why this happens and learn a little more about how to mainstream youth involvement in city projects, we have with us this morning Brian Kapati, who is a CDIA Urban Development Specialist, together with Lee Lambert and Ming Nguyen. They're experts on youth projects from ADB and ADB Youth for Asia. So CDIA and ADB Youth for Asia recognize the importance of youth engagements in urban development, and they've collaborated with youth and other stakeholders on infrastructure project preparation in several countries. So that's me, I'm done. Without further ado, Brian, good morning and welcome to the session. Oh, Brian, I think you might be on mute. You got a handsome face, but we want to hear your voice too.
It's the usual mistake that I make at least once a week. But anyway, thank you very much, Ben. Thank you for the introduction. And yeah, very much happy to be here. Very much looking forward to the discussion. And I'm really, really privileged. In fact, even happy to be associated with such young, talented, and dynamic people such as Lee and Min. So yeah, looking forward to discussions later. Nice.
Thanks, Brian. And Ming, good morning. How are you today?
Good morning. I hope everyone is doing fine and stay safe wherever you are. My name is Min. I'm from the Youth for Asia initiative. And I'm supporting for the youth projects in urban and water sector in ADB. So happy to be here and share with you more how we can work with each other. Yes, and also a young person here. So both as a person to support. So I'm a young person and I work for young people in the region. Thank you.
Thanks, Ming. And Lee, who is joining us from the UK, I believe. It's good to see you this morning as well.
Thank you, Ben. Good morning, everyone. I'm Lee. I'm a youth engagement specialist. And I've been working with the Asian Development Bank, CDIA, and Youth for Asia on integrating youth participation in urban infrastructure and sustainable transport projects. So I'm delighted to be here this morning with Min, Brian, yourself, Ben, and all of the attendees. I'm looking forward to our webinar.
Nice. All right, thanks everyone, Brian, Ming, and Lee. We'd also like to know a little bit more about the participants who are attending the call today. So anybody who's watching feel free to put in the chat box a little information about yourself. So we want to know where you're from. So tell us where you're from, what your industry or organization is, and anything else you'd like us to know about you today. So we'll keep an eye on the chat box right here, and let's see what the responses are as they come in. Yeah, all right. Let's see, I'll put an example here. Hi, this is Ben from Hanoi. There we go. Okay, we have Youngbo. She is from, or he is from, New York, and focused on bringing impact finance mainstream with inclusive cities at the core. All right, somebody watching from New York. You must be staying up late today. Yeah. All right, cool. Anybody else that wants to put any information about yourself, go ahead and put that in the chat, and we will keep moving. All right, so let's start with the discussion. So the first subtopic we want to focus on here is the challenges of engaging youth in urban development work. Let's open this up by talking to Ming. Ming, why do you think young people should be more involved in creating equitable and livable cities in Asia and the Pacific?
Thank you, Ben. I hear a bit like echo, so I don't know if it's only from me or how it is. Why do I think that young people should be more involved in urban development in Asia Pacific? So I believe that everyone shares that young people are the future of the world, right? Are the future of Asia and the Pacific. I might disagree with that a little bit. I don't think young people are only the future. They are also the presence of every single city in Asia and the Pacific. And look at the representation of Asia. It's more than 6% of the urban population in Asia Pacific is under 60. It's under 30. So that is a number, right? We have a lot of young people in cities. And number two, that young people have very specific characteristics to contribute to the development process. They are innovative, disruptive thinking, they are digital literate, they are resilient, resourceful, they are natural collaborator. They are caring and responsible citizens, and they are very good at influencing behavioral within their communities. So they have very specific characteristics, and acknowledge that youth is a transition period from a child, right, to an adult. So these characteristics might disappear when they're no longer a young person anymore. So like leveraging on those characteristics will be a strong poise to contribute to the development process of any cities in Asia and the Pacific. So yeah, like we have a lot of young people in city, and young people have specific contribution and characteristics to the development of urban in Asia Pacific. So that's why we should engage more young people in the development process.
Great. Thank you. And building off of that, Lee, despite the demographics of there being 1.1 billion people under the age of 30 in Asia, why is youth engagement in urban development still limited? And what do you think are the challenges in getting young people involved?
So I think one of the key things to understand is that youth engagement within urban development is still quite a relatively new concept for many cities, particularly in developing Asia. And therefore, it has not had the maturity of some other types of urban development practices. So there are some kind of general challenges that we see across the region, across many different countries and cities, and there's some that are more specific. So I think one of the things we see a lot is the fact that an urban development project is very complex. There's a number of different agendas and strategies, interventions, and also a number of different actors at different levels. So finding the role for young people to meaningfully engage within that complex architecture is slightly difficult. There's also one thing we noticed, I mean, touching upon when you mentioned the youth population, but also the aging population. In many cities, we see a generational divide and a bit of a disconnect between the leaders and local authorities who are in charge of, financing and implementing urban development projects, and the young people who are typically seen as beneficiaries. So because of that, we see a lack of opportunities for young people to play an active role in project planning, project design. There's limited educational and employment opportunities to build the capacity of young people in order to get a role in working with these types of projects. And also there's a lack of prior experience for a number of governments working with young people, and a lack of best case practice examples. And without them, countries and governments can be a little bit hesitant or resistant to engaging with their large youth population.
Thank you for that, Lee. Brian, how about you, from the perspective of an urban development practitioner? What do you think makes young people less inclined to become involved in urban projects?
Well, I wouldn't say less inclined, but noticing a couple of things in the urban environment right now. For one thing, it is quite common that there is really no youth representation in city governments, or even at the lowest level of governments in Asian countries. So one of the reasons might be the country's history. This might be contributing largely to this generational divide between the youth and city leaders. But of course, recent technological advances, connectivity, learning opportunities, because of these things, youth have become more involved in city initiatives. On the actual project side, what we have noticed is that usually, more often than not, professional positions in urban development projects far exceed the qualifications of any young professional. So on CDIA's side, we do tend to relax a bit about this, and we actually go a step further by encouraging you to apply actually to positions in CDIA projects.
Nice. Thanks for that, Brian. For anybody who is just joining us at this webinar, we're talking about youth engagement in urban development projects with some representatives from CDIA and ADB Youth for Asia. The next question is for Ming from ADB Youth for Asia. Ming, do you have any perspective on the difference between working with youth in the past and working with them now? Do you think there might be a more conscious effort from the youth and the governments to be working together now?
Definitely, I think everyone can see that there's a movement that young people are more mentioned in development activities, right? If you see in the past that we only see programs or projects that youth are beneficiaries, now we see youth are more considered to be partners in development. And you can also definitely see in the chat that a lot of programs are now mentioned to bring more young people into the development process. So you see in the past, right? For example, like young people are started from that they are assigned a certain task and they are informed about that. They are consulted and they're also informed about that. And then older generation, they initiate different activities and share the decision with young people. Now we see a lot of youth initiate their own initiative and directly their own initiative. But the highest level we want to see is that where the youth initiate their activities and share the decision back to elders, to government. So I think that is the highest level of participation that we want to see from young people, and how young people can work with government more collaboratively. So there's a lot of participation. We see more and more activities, and I think the biggest point is that now young people are more recognized as partners, not only as beneficiaries but partners for development. So that is the biggest movement. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that's a very, very profound change and very important. Lee and Ming, could either of you share some more details about a successful experience you've had on working with youth in urban project? Oh, Lee, I think you're still muted too.
Okay.
He's back.
Thank you. I hope the sound quality is okay. I apologize for that.
It's much better, yeah.
Okay, great. Sorry about that the first time. So yeah, I'd like to share an example from working with Asian Development Bank and Youth for Asia in Georgia. So in Georgia, we were working on a regional project across 3 or 4 key cluster locations and looking to build livable cities. So that means making cities which are equitable for all, environmentally sustainable, and economically competitive, sorry. So within such a kind of comprehensive project, young people were typically seen as beneficiaries who would maybe benefit from 1 or 2 interventions within the project. What we did was reformulate how the consultative process was designed and worked with youth organizations, academia, NGOs, community-based organizations to engage young people in the early project design. From that, we were able to identify their challenges, their needs, ideas they had, and solutions, and translate that into an investment program for various cities in different areas that could respond to those needs and challenges, and also provide opportunities for young people. So what that would look like, for example, would be providing young people with better access to education within peri-urban settings, or looking at sports complexes and recreational facilities for young people in cities where they don't currently exist. So we were able to do that by a kind of consultative process in which young people were given the platform to not only suggest their own ideas and their own perspectives, but we worked with them to facilitate actual strategies and actions whereby those young people play a role in the implementation of some of those projects. And that was something that's been quite successful in Georgia, and it's been replicated in some other cities.
Thanks for that, Lee. Ming, did you have anything you wanted to add on to that?
I also think that for me personally, urban is a space, right? So actually there are a lot of more things to do. And I think that urban has always been a very exciting sector for Youthful Asia to involve in, because it doesn't stop only in infrastructure of that, but how, for example, we talk more about employment. How can young people more employed in cities? How can we encourage more entrepreneurship in cities? How can young people to be financially literate in different like university and urban? So urban is very open. I believe that urban open a lot of doors and opportunities for young people to engage in. Doesn't stop only with infrastructure, doesn't stop only with building the city, the physical city, but building a life in the city itself. So I think that part is why that there's a lot of excitement from Youthful Asia to work with the urban sector as well.
Nice. Thank you for that, Ming. So from, with this experience in mind, what do you think, or let's see, how do you think that city officials, experts, and planners can better inform and inspire youth to engage in future urban projects? I'm not sure which of you wants to take that question, but just thought I'd throw it out there.
I think I have 2 points, a very simple one. I think there's one common perception that normally when I work with other generation, that they may say that young people are more a risk than an opportunities. I think the first thing that anyone, city officials, experts, planners, that we need to recognize that young people are not a risk to your urban development. We are opportunities for the urban development. So how can we leverage the opportunities? And the second question is that young people should not work alone. Young people will be work best in a cross-generational environment when we have the opportunities to work with you, to work with city officials, expert planners. So don't put them alone. Don't just let them do whatever they want. So that's how we can leverage the strengths of each other. And those are the 2 things that we can set to think about it and how to work with young people more. Yeah, so we are an opportunities, and we work best when we have you to be with us as a team and working together.
Great. Thanks, Ming. So how have CDIA and YFA have been mainstreaming youth participation in urban development efforts? Let's see, Brian, we haven't heard from you in a few minutes. I was wondering if you had any input on this.
Yeah. On CDIA side, well, in the past, CDIA has these internship activities, Young Asian Professional Program. This has run its course for the better part of a decade, and now recognizing the new and numerous internship opportunities for the youth in urban development, we in CDI focus more on the next step for youth, the actual involvement of youth in project development work. So right now we have a really close coordination with youth-led organizations and also ADB's Youth for Asia in many of our projects. And also I'd like to point out that one prominent aspect of any project preparation study in CDIA is the development of an institutional and capacity development roadmap. So this roadmap is mainstreamed in all of our work. And in it, we highlight the role of significant stakeholders involved in the project. So the role of youth in the institutional aspect of any given urban development project can and should be highlighted in such a roadmap to give the youth entry points and opportunities, as Min has mentioned before. And probably just to add to what Min mentioned earlier, what struck to me, two things actually: involve and give opportunities to the youth. Bear with me if I share a little bit about a recent project which we completed in Myanmar, the Yangon Urban Services Improvement Project. So in that project, we were required, given particular circumstances, to revamp the team. So this required a particular young member of the team to take on a significantly more deeper role in coordination with city officials. So being given that opportunity, the person, she took it on, she flourished, and right now I would say that at the end of the project, she was considered one of the most important team member of the CDI team. To date, actually, she has been engaged as a team leader for a small project on water supply in Yangon, specifically because of that experience she has gathered in the previous CDI project. So yeah, I would say that involve and give opportunities to the youth. The youth more often provide a fresh perspective, a more dynamic one, and they are proactive. It gives older people like me, for example, a bit of an escape from tunnel vision, from doing everything so routinely in the past and in current work.
Nice. Well, let's drill down on that a little bit. Let's see, Ming or Lee, would either of you like to add any more specifics about youth involvement in past and present CDIA projects?
Yeah, definitely. Before going to that, I think there is a disclaimer because we talk about young people, because I see in the chat, right, like that might be two definitions we might think they are the same. Number one is young professionals, and number two are youth. Young professional means they have like they are very new to their profession, like they have like 3 to 5 years experience in their career life. While youth, we talk about the transition period of from a child to an adult, right? So youth engagement here is not only about engaging young professionals and provide opportunities for young professionals. This is how we can engage a larger audience of youth. Means your friends, your younger sister, your younger brothers in the development process. So I think that is something we need to think more, not only with the young professionals, but also how we can engage young people more effectively. back to the projects with CDA, I think there was one project that both like three of us, Brian, he, Lee, and myself, engaged in, and it was such a long process, and I'm very proud of that. We have development projects in Indonesia, and it started like how we can improve informal settlement areas in certain cities in Indonesia, and one of the cities is Cirebon. So we picked up, we work with CDA to pick up one of the city, which is Cirebon, and we bring young people into a forum, and they work with experts in ADB to design what they think that they can contribute to improve the informal settlement areas. And they pitch their ideas, they share the problem trees, and they suggested how we can take it forward. And 1 year later, I think now we're here and together with Lee to take the initiative forward, and actually it's running in Cirebon. I will leave that part to Lee to share more what is happening right now after the activities we did 1 year ago in the forum. The young people came together. So Lee, back to you.
Thank you, Min. Yeah, so the project we're working on now is a youth-led poverty and social analysis. So this is initial research which is required to build the design of any project to ensure that it properly and appropriately measures the different dimensions of poverty and inequality across all stakeholder groups. And what makes this project innovative in terms of youth engagement is that it's completely youth-led. So we're working all as young people, both international and nationally. We're working with academic partners to ensure, rigorous academic processes is applied to this project, and working with youth-focused and youth-led organizations and stakeholders within Cirebon to work with the young people to identify their own challenges and perspectives in terms of living in informal settlements and things like access to services, employment, health, and informality. So what also makes it a bit more interesting is the fact that we're doing this work remotely. It's virtual due to the COVID-19 crisis. And that brings in another element of where young people can add value. So by utilizing ICT tools and technology, which we know young people are perhaps more familiar with and also better at using, we're working using ICT apps and different technologies to solicit the inputs of young people to use that to inform project design. And that's something that can really help provide that rich data and reliable data for governments to target their specific investments. So without such an approach, a large section of society gets left out in projects. If we don't engage young people, we can't fully understand what are their challenges, what are their needs. And if we can't do that, we can't understand how to, improve the quality of their livelihood. So we're working on this, and I'd like to just say it's actually this kind of project was put in motion by Min and Brian and team at CDIA, following a project preparation study for a large project on slum upgrading and rehabilitation with CDIA and ADB Indonesia. So the way we can explain how we got here is like a process. So it starts with, identifying an entry point for where young people can play a role and add real value to the project as a partner, not just a beneficiary. And as Min said, it's a long process. It's about 1 year. In my experience, it can be more. But it's about identifying that entry point and clearly showing to the cities, the role of young people and where it can be beneficial, and working together to plan and strategize that and get us to the implementation stage now, whereby we'll work with young people to lead this research, and that will directly lead to targeted investments which address their challenges, and moving forward will improve their livelihoods. And we're quite excited to work on this one.
Thanks so much for that, Lee. Ming, I know you have worked with CDIA as part of Youth for Asia. Would you mind briefly sharing some of your experiences of working with CDIA? What has that been like?
I believe the experience working with CDIA is very interesting because CDIA, they focus a lot in the preparation process, right? And as Lee mentioned, that the most important part is the preparation process, that we define the entry point for young people to engage with. And if in the entry point, we figure out that how young people can contribute in, that's how the later projects that we can engage young people more effectively. So the example that Lee just shared, that's how it started from a very beginning, the preparation process of the projects in Indonesia, and that's how we can get young people to be there right now. I believe that Lee has a lot more experience working with actual projects, but that is my impression in my engagement with CDA so far. So they help a lot with Youth for Asia to define a lot of entry point in the preparation activities of different projects and bring ideas of young people in, and that's how we can leverage those ideas and those entry point for actual projects engagement in the later process. Brian, Lee, do you have any further comments or experience in that part? Lee, back to you.
Thank you, Min. I'll try and be quick, but yeah, what I would say, our lessons learned from projects in India, China, and Myanmar, integrating youth within projects, we found out basically that we work on these identifying these thematic or programmatic areas in which young people are currently lacking participation, and then working with the cities to help them understand opportunities for addressing this. So when we look at youth engagement, it has to be a specific attainable goal. It has to be locally, culturally, and politically appropriate. It has to be realistic and achievable, and build upon the resources that young people have without basically having any risk or any associated issues. And it has to align with what a city's vision is for moving forward, and align to different policies and programs and projects. And finally, I think working with young people in cities, it has to be in the interest of both the city and the citizens themselves, so that the project becomes financially, technically, and strategically feasible. So just to kind of give an example of what CDIA do here is, with the capacity development work, they are the first, often the first, I would say, partner that creates or facilitates that dialogue between young people and the cities themselves. So that is a strong point of CDIA. As working with these secondary cities, they are that intermediary partner that connects city officials, development organizations, and communities and different stakeholders. So if we can start and establish that dialogue and work on it to identify different opportunities, I think that's something that we can do, and that's something we've done successfully that's led to youth engagement and future projects downstream, just like Min and I are working on now in Indonesia. Thank you.
Very nice. Thank you so much for that, Lee. Well, Ming and Lee and Brian, thank you for your responses and inputs to these questions so far. It is time to shift gears and move to something a little different. As some of you watching might be aware, CDIA has been running a Better My City photo contest this month as part of their Urban October campaign. And what this contest is, it's an interactive photo contest that is also run by Youth for Asia, and it gives people the opportunity to submit photos of their cities, and they edit the photos to show what their visions will be for a better urban future, and then everybody gets to see them and pick which ones we think are the best. And so we've actually concluded this contest. At this point, we've received a lot of great entries from people across Asia, from places like Vietnam, Indonesia, Mongolia, Japan, Sri Lanka, and India. Brian, before we take a look at the winning photos, what does the Better My City contest mean for CDIA, and what are some of the next steps that CDIA will take after this? Oh, he's muted again.
Personally, it really gives me the impression that the youth in Asia are very cognizant of the current shortcomings in their city landscape, in their city urban infrastructure. And as we have seen in the many entries, it was not easy choosing, by the way. They have a very good grasp of on initiatives or solutions to these shortcomings. To us in CDIA, this is the first step. Actually, it's a very, very good aspect of development work. Actually, recognizing the problem and having a goal to address it. And I would say between that problem and the solution, we are happy to say here in CDIA, we can help cities by providing, by bridging that gap between addressing these problems and the solution, and by providing a project preparation support that the city can use to justify and leverage financing for these projects. So in this case, we in CDI are still evolving, I would say. We have had a significant initiatives on youth engagement already in the past, but we're still looking for ways in order to improve our reach and involve the youth more in our projects. So we do have a good social media presence, and any updates that we may have on these improvements, we will roll out or inform everyone. And yeah, I also acknowledge the presence of meeting attendees here. I see really good and really familiar names here, and I'm happy that we still have that connection between CDIA and you.
Great. Thanks for that, Brian. Now, before we show the winning photos, we want to make sure we answer some of the Q&A questions that the attendees have submitted. So we've pulled a few out of the question box here. The first is from Chris Morris. And Chris says, how many young people tasked with bringing local youth perspectives does CDIA currently have in their team? I guess that might be a question best suited for Brian.
Right now, I would say CDI is a little bit thinly spread right now. And if I'm not mistaken, I am one of the 2 youngest people in CDIA right now, but we do tend to look for ways to expand this as we speak right now. And as I've said, CDI is continually evolving. We continue to become more inclusive of youth, not only in our projects, but actually organically within CDIA. So on that part, we're still working on it, but I would like to point out that in the past we did have an organic a youth member as a part of the team. I mean, we have him here actually, Lee, and in the future we're looking to repeat that in order to provide a sort of launching platform for these youth professionals to start their career. Yeah. Thank you very much, Chris. I would admit that we don't have as many young people as we would like right now, but we're currently working on that.
Thanks, Brian. We have received an anonymous question for Lee. Lee, this person asked, what is the difference between working for youth or working with youth in Europe and in Asia? As you were working with CDIA and now you're based in Europe, are there any lessons learned from Europe that can be applied for youth engagement in Asia?
Thank you for that question. I will try to answer, but actually all of my work experiences in Asia and Africa and a little bit in Latin America. So I can talk about the UK at least, but maybe not other wider parts of Europe. I would say there are potentially more enabling environments and platforms for young people to participate in city planning here. One of the key things I would say is the presence of multiple universities and higher education institutions having urban planning master's courses, PhD courses, many governments or local authorities, and also public-private organizations, private organizations working in urban development have internship programs, grad programs, and kind of long-term early career strategy programs. For example, working with the UK government, with the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office here in the UK. So I believe at an institutional level in Europe, there are potentially, you know, more entry points and platforms for young people. However, what I would say compares with Europe compared to developing Asia is that although these platforms exist here, it's not necessarily always a representative type of opportunity. It will be typically people from middle classes and upper classes which can afford and have the expertise or experience to, you know, get engaged in such programs. I think in some developing countries I've worked in, the balance is a bit different, and there's sometimes more opportunities for a more representative kind of pool of young people to be involved with city planning. But I think it's one thing that can be strengthened, and I think some models looking at youth participation as partners and not looking beyond tokenism has to be something that we look at moving forward.
Thanks, Lee. Now, there are some more questions that unfortunately we don't have a lot of time to get to. And what we'll do is what we usually do. We'll take those questions and we'll get them to the relevant experts and have them respond to those via email. So thanks everybody for submitting your questions. And with that, I think it's time for our special session here where we announce the winners of the Better My City photo contest. So to do that, we're going to put the photos up here where everybody can see them, and Brian is going to announce the winners. So there are two prizes. The first is the Expert's Choice Award, and that is awarded to the entry that displays what the experts consider to be the most creativity, practicality, and feasibility for their urban development vision. And there's also a Citizen's Choice Award, which is judged based on the highest organic reach that entry received on Facebook. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and display these photos, and Brian can do the honors and introduce the winners. Let's see, sharing the screen right now. All right. Hopefully everybody can see that. All right, here we go.
Okay, so the winner of our Expert's Choice Award is Lalit Kadu from India. It was difficult. I would say there are quite a lot of entries that have really good ideas. It was difficult to narrow it down to one, actually. But this particular entry, what we liked about it is the wider range of solutions that were proposed, and each solution's particular emphasis and consideration to a wider range of stakeholders. It is very inclusive in that it considered almost, I mean, the whole community, including children, the homeless, and even has certain aspects to it that have information dissemination. I do also like a bit the hint of some sustainability elements in the project. As you can see, it has a proposal for solar lamps and elements to keep the environment clean. So this one is really a good proposal for us, and it gives the impression that Lalit has a really good cognizance of the situation in his city and how he is thinking on addressing these problems with stakeholders and people in mind. Because at the end of the day, I mean, the project is all about benefiting the people, citizens.
Very nice. Well, this is a very, very cool photo. A lot of thought and effort went into this one. It looks like we can't see some of the edges of the photo, but I think that the winning photos will also be displayed online, and we'll make sure that we announce the link to where everybody can see the winning photos. So congratulations to Lali, and I think we have at least one more winner. Go. Okay, let's see. Brian, would you like to introduce the next winner?
Yeah, actually, we have a couple of winners because we decided at the last minute to make the Citizens Award make it 2. So the first one, if you could display it. Yeah, so this one, it's from Husnul Khotimah from Indonesia. The thing that in addition to being selected by a really wide number of people, if I'm not mistaken, it's close to 1,000 or a couple of thousand or something. What I liked about this entry is its particular consideration to a very prominent problem in Indonesia. Indonesia is one of my favorite countries to visit, actually, and I am no stranger to traffic in Indonesia. And yeah, this particular entry gives the importance on how to secure pedestrian infrastructure, particularly those close to institutions like school. So this one is a very good, very simple and very direct entry that I'm happy won this particular Citizens Award. And the next one.
Congratulations to Husnul. We'll get the next one pulled up. Let's see. Oh, looks like the next one. Yeah, we're gonna pull it up right now. But that was nice that there's actually a few more winners, or at least one more winner. Oh, there it is.
Yeah. So the second Citizens' Choice Award is from Christopher Gerale from the Philippines. As you, in addition to having been selected by the citizens, you could see there are quite a number of initiatives recommended here, and most of them are revolving around renewable energy and sustainability measures for the city. We are very much quite happy that that people have these in mind. People are cognizant of these solutions to pressing problems in cities, and then gives the impression also that the future is bright to have these young people proposing this. One thing I'd like to point out, in addition to, in particular to these Citizens' Choice Award, is how these people involved everyone, how these people showed everyone their ideas. But they got the most votes, they got the most comments, because they had their platform to share these. That's one of the particular strength of the youth today, is their proactiveness in sharing, in involving others, in selling themselves. So this is a very good and very important award also I'm looking at, and it's very much promising looking at the many entries we've seen.
Yeah, this photo shows a lot of insights. Yeah, well, maybe Christopher needs to come work for CDIA. You never know. Let's see, Lee and Ming, did you have anything you wanted to say about these photos? Any comments?
Yeah, I wanted to say, first of all, they were excellent, as were all of the entries, and it shows real, you know, interest and enthusiasm from the young people across Asia. What I wanted to say was that looking at a comprehensive approach to urban development, where we look at you know, environmental sustainability and economic competitiveness, you know, and social equity, I would say across all three of the winners, we've seen how those different, you know, different aspects of urban development come together by just looking at a cityscape like this and some of the different, you know, elements, I guess. And what I wanted to say was, from my experience, you know, using methods like this of looking at a place, like a place analysis, like a lot of these entries are, we have used such approaches to then design interventions and project improvements within different areas. So we did this in Vietnam when we looked at women's safety, and we asked young people to, you know, look at their streets, look at their roads, and identify what are the key infrastructural issues. Is the lighting poor? Is the walk path inaccessible? Does this particular area feel unsafe for women, and why? And we'd use that kind of approach to then feed into direct investments or infrastructure improvements that could improve, you know, safety and accessibility for women and girls in the metro. So this type of exercise is very useful, and it's something I would like CDIA and other organizations to do a bit more. And I would encourage all young people who want to share their ideas to communicate with myself and with the other specialists on this call, because there's always opportunities to share your ideas, and hopefully we can work together to, you know, use them to structure and then implement urban improvements in your cities. But well done, everyone. Really, really good.
Thanks, Lee. Ming, any thoughts on these photos?
No, I think they are brilliant. They are amazing. I hope that it will happen in reality, step by step. And don't forget to bring young people into that process. That is my hope.
Awesome. Well, yeah, these photos, these winners are great. And once again, thank you for your submissions. Everybody who entered the contest, you've done a great job in your efforts to raise city awareness issues and bring them to the forefront. If you are a winner and you haven't received your email regarding the steps you need to take to claim your prize, make sure you check your spam folder in your email. It might be in there. Because I think the winners have all been contacted at this point. And there will also be a feature article covering the winners published on the CDIA and Youth for Asia websites. And that article will be released on World Cities Day, which is October 31st, so just a few days away. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And that article will also be in the CDIA bi-monthly newsletter as well. We'll also showcase the top 10, because there were a lot of great photos, and unfortunately there can only be one winner, but there's a lot of great photos that were in contention for the Expert's Choice Award, and those 10 photos will be displayed on CDIA's Facebook. So you can see the link to that in the chat right now. Well, I think that's actually the end of our Urban Breakfast webinar and the Urban Breakfast series. So thank you very much, Ming, Brian, Lee, for joining us this morning. Thank you for your time and your insights and all the preparation you did to make this happen. And thank you to all the attendees who showed up as well. Thank you for your attention and your questions. As we sign off here, we'd also like to thank CDIA's funders and supporters. They include the Asian Development Bank, the French Development Agency, AFD, the European Union, and the governments of Austria, France, Germany, and Switzerland. One more time for city officials, any of you who might be on this call right now, if you want to apply for CDIA's project preparation support, you can email them at CDIA_info@cdia.asia, and the link is again there in the chat. Also, everyone, make sure you keep an eye on CDIA's social media channels and website to see their continuing development work in Asia Pacific. Once again, a big thanks to Youth for Asia and Ming for helping out on this campaign this month. It was great to have you involved. So that's about it. Hope you guys had a great time at the webinar and have a great day. See you later.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
See you.